Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. Made the trip, episode 582, and we're here with a good friend of ours, Don. Don's a volunteer for the Hempfest this year, and a real inspiration to a lot of people. I appreciate Don. Don is always there to help. If we had a dozen more people like Don, I wouldn't have any worries at all. I wouldn't be losing my hair and have high blood pressure from running the Hempfest.
Gosh. Well, thank you very much. I've been trying.
You bet. I appreciate it. Don was able to make it down to Roseburg to the Umpqua Hempfest.
Umpqua Valley.
Thank you. Umpqua Valley Hempfest. We were down in Roseburg, one-day event, and our Willamette Valley Normal chapter actually was a sponsor for that event. But I wasn't able to go, but Don was, and so it was great. So Don set up the booth and was there for us and handed out flyers and had a great time.
And it was my first Hempfest too, and the music was really great.
Yeah.
And Dan tried to reimburse me for my expenses, but I felt guilty about taking money from him because I just had a really good time.
Yeah. Well, that was great. Well, I really appreciated being there, and I always enjoy those events. First of all, I enjoy Hempfest because they're like a trade show, just like our Hempfest. It's a trade show. You see things there and meet people there you'll never see or meet anywhere else. So it's a very unique situation, and we got a lot of things coming up. It's going to be really interesting about Hempfest. And one of the things I talked to Don about when he was talking about coming on the show is that he gifted me a shirt that he had gotten, and then told me the story. So tell us about the shirts.
These are hand painted by my friend Jeff Zenick in Tallahassee, Florida, and he gave these to me the last time I was down there, and I think he'd like you to have one. So
yeah, well, that's great. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. And yes, it's really cool. I really like it.
And his wife Paula also is an artist. She does knitting, and she has a knit shop there in Railroad Square.
You bet. Well, Jeff Zenick and Paula, greetings from Oregon, and really enjoying the shirts. And so you got a real fan, or a couple fans, I guess, on your product. So we want to talk about the Hempfest. It's 10 days, actually. 10 days till the Hempfest, which is kind of scary. But I've learned over the years not to worry about it. Don't get scared. Just keep pushing forward, and it all works out. It's amazing. That's the thing that just continually amazes me. That's why I know we're doing the right thing, is because everything always works out. The disasters end up, in hindsight, just being a little bump in the road.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, it's exciting, but we still need volunteers, especially crew leaders. So if you can show up at any Saturday up until the 11th, we'll be at the park at 2 o'clock. And speaking of the Hempfest, I got to thinking about it because a friend of mine was correcting me and said, "Well, you talking about being his 12th event? Well, this would be a 13th event." And it's been 13 years, and I said, well, and then I got thinking, I thought, well, she didn't realize that we had to cancel 1 year. So yes, it's been 13 years, but we only had 12 events. And I thought, well, I should tell the story of what happened in 2004. It's on our website, but I doubt very many people have read it. But so the short story is, the event was canceled due to lack of insurance. Our insurance carrier notified us 36 hours prior to the event they couldn't insure us because we were having camping on site. We also were having a problem with negotiating a contract with the landowner too, and that was another problem we had. So anyway, we had to cancel. The long story is, and this was quite a ride, we didn't have the $2,000 as needed in January 4th to reserve Alton Baker Park for the third weekend of the year. And someone else got Alton Baker Park that weekend. We didn't see, if you don't have the money the first thing of the year, and somebody else has the money, who has the money gets the park. And nobody wanted it, but we didn't have the money for it. And then this other party ended up renting it before we could raise the money. So anyway, we couldn't have it at the Alton Baker Park, which would have been our second event at that park, because our first one was there. So anyway, so we decided to have the Hempfest at Washington Jefferson Park was our second choice. And so we turned in our special use application on June 3rd, 2004. In a letter postmarked June 10th, they told us our application was incomplete. We were working on the required paperwork, and we were notified that the permit was going to be denied. The Eugene Police Department deemed our event, quote, a danger to the public. I still have the letter. Due to the amount of illegal activities, according to them, that occurred at our prior event, the first event in 2003. We contacted the Eugene chapter of the ACLU for help. The Eugene ACLU arranged a meeting that was attended by 2 ACLU personnel, the Eugene Police Department, the single person between us and the permit, and also the head of the RDU, which is a Rapid Deployment Unit, the city attorney, 2 park officials, the supervisor of the private security that we used in 2003, our attorney, David Mole, and Eileen Erdelt and I representing the Hempfest. Big round table. We had this big powwow. And it turned out that the EPD, all they wanted was assurances that we would have tighter security, i.e. zero tolerance for any use or sale of any illegal drugs would result in expulsion from the event. We think that we could have worked out an agreement with the EPD. However, late in the meeting, I asked the Parks Department about a discrepancy in the paperwork. In our paperwork we submitted, we clearly stated we were going to have a beer garden. And in the notice they sent back, they asked us for our OLCC permit, which is supplied by the beer vendor, and a certificate of liquor liability insurance, which is also supplied by the beer vendor. No problem, but on another sheet it said, no alcoholic beverages allowed in Washington Jefferson Park. The city attorney looked at our notices and asked the Parks Department personnel about this, and they didn't know. They had to look it up, and lo and behold, alcoholic beverages are not allowed in Washington Jefferson Park. So then, almost as an afterthought, one of the parks personnel said, by the way, you have the event set up on the wrong side of the tracks. You need to have it on the north side of the tracks. We don't want 2,500 people on the grass south of the tracks. Between having to rewrite the safety plan, redraw the site plan, create a traffic plan not required in this park in the past, but it is now, the loss of the beer garden revenue, and lack of time, we decided to take up one of the offers we had received for private land to hold the event. We had started the appeal process as spelled out in the city code about not being able to use the city park. When we actually submitted the appeal, the city didn't know what the fee was. The city manager didn't know. The city attorney didn't know. We filed without a payment and were planning on running this the full course. However, we realized that we just didn't have any time left, so stopped the appeal. I don't think we ever did find out what it would have cost. They didn't know. I can't say, nor do I really think that there was a conspiracy by the EPD or the Parks Department. We are at least in part to blame for our troubles by starting the process so late. We could have overcome all the obstacles except the loss of the beer garden revenue if we had had more time and quicker and more accurate input from the Parks Department. We decided to change the venue. We had 4 offers of private land to hold the event on. We picked the only one that would work. When the county learned of the event, they insisted in requiring a conditional use permit, $2,800. Our attorneys, David Mole and Brian Michaels, wrote to the county pointing out that this requirement was not legal. But the county wouldn't back off. We found a sponsor who would loan us the money, so this wasn't a deal breaker. We were trying to complete a contract between the Hempfest and the venue owner when the insurance company notified us that they couldn't insure the event because we were having on-site camping. It seems that it's difficult to find an underwriter who will cover events with on-site camping. In all, if this weren't enough, our website was down, and then we lost our domain address. We had to cancel the event and turn people away at the venue. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. So I said, but since then we've had successful events in the park. We came back in 2005. We had a successful event. We were required to have a meeting with the officer in charge of that area at the beginning of our event. We had a meeting with him. He showed up and he said, if you don't call, I'm not coming. And we didn't call and he didn't come. And we haven't had any problems with the Eugene Police Department since. So that's a good report. And we ended up having the event at the Washington Jefferson Park up until 2010. 2011, we decided to try to move the event to Maury Jacobs Park, and that first year was a little bit rough. We had, we had some few mix-ups with personnel, and there was some lack of communication, and the event wasn't set up properly, and the city was mad at us, and all in all, it was kind of a mess. So second year, 2012 came, and we did it really well. In fact, they told us at the end of 2011 if we didn't get it right in 2012, we wouldn't have a park again. And we came back, and not only we did so well that when the event was over, they said, we're looking forward to working with you next year.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was a real highlight, you know.
That's
and then,
impressive.
Yeah, and then 2013, we had a letter from a neighbor, Maud, gave us a letter and it was complimenting us on how good the job that we had done on handling traffic. She said, because he lives right in that gravel area, you know, north of Polk, and she said that we were, of all the groups that have events there, we are by far the most organized and the best handled group there, you know. And so we always, that made our day, you know. I mean, that was, after all that hard work, and to get that letter is pretty neat, you know. And it was a cool letter, too, because she went on to say that it was nice living next to a park and then having live music just down the street is just is a real nice.
That would be nice.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so we hope to do that again this year. We want to get back on the good side of the neighbors. Last year we didn't have complaints from the neighbors, but the neighbors complained about the people that were hanging around outside of our event. And so the city parks department, when we had a disagreement, because they said that it was our responsibility because they wouldn't be there if we weren't there. And my position was they tell us to put a perimeter fence up, and then I figured our responsibility ended the perimeter fence. But anyway, so he said, no, he said, the people wouldn't be there if it wasn't for you. So therefore, it's your responsibility. And later, I figured a solution, which I don't want to announce publicly, but after the event, I'll tell you about it. But we've come up with an idea how to cure that problem.
I think it'll
and
work
the Parks Department likes it too. So I think we're going to be fine. And I just want to do better on traffic this year, and you know, don't. Get on the good side of everybody, you know. So, but I really appreciate your efforts, Don. And like I said, we're meeting every Saturday at 2 o'clock, so you're welcome to come on by the park. That's on the concrete slab by the bathrooms. Another way to identify it is it's near the soccer field. The one that lights people's memories, and I see that smile when I say, just downriver from the Rose Garden, and that's the one that gets them. Oh, okay, I know where that is. Seems everybody knows where the Rose Garden is, but anyway, that's where it's at, and it's a lot of shade trees. It's right on the river, and so it's a great
beautiful
location.
Site.
Yeah, we've had really good results from being there. Parking's really limited, so you got to be creative about parking, but we're doing what we can with the parking. And of course, there's always Valley River. You can park at Valley River and walk across the footbridge. It's not a bad little walk. And, beautiful country and everything, and got to go over the river.
Scenic river too.
Yes. Oh yeah, very. And so it's yeah. The cops drive across the bridge, but we can't.
Oh, they do.
Oh yeah.
I didn't think it would hold a.
Yeah. No, apparently it does. No. So anyway, we're going to get out of here and take a break, and we'll be back with the second half of episode 582. So stay tuned, and we'll be here.
President Obama stopped the drug wars, the drama, arrested me for a G of Jane, comma Mary. Take that money for the jail cells, keep it from the cartels. Don't help a drug dealer millionaire, tax weed and give a brother health care. It's cannabis, miracle medicine that gives me bliss. Used to making rope and giving somebody hope, that sounds familiar. Be the candidate we thought you were. Norm to the L.org, National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Norm to the L.org. Go to the website and help out the cause.
Welcome back to the second half of the episode 582, Eugene Cannabis Show. We've got our friend Don is here, and a Hempfest volunteer, and he gifted me with a shirt that's made by the same artist as the one that he's wearing, Jeff Zinnick and Paula. And they're out of what state again is that?
Tallahassee, Florida.
Oh yeah, Florida. Oh boy,
and Paula does knitting. She has a knitting shop there.
Oh, okay. They're way on the right coast. We're on the left coast, so that's right. Yeah, that's great. So anyway, and so I asked Don if he'd like to come on and tell his cannabis story, and so that's why Don's here. Basically, he wanted to tell his cannabis story.
Well, I've got to go back like 12 years before my cannabis story, because in January of 1982, I was paralyzed from the chest down for about 4 months, and at first I didn't know what was going on. Later, it was like 5 years later, I changed neurologist, and he finally determined it was that the initials are ADEM. It stands for acute disseminated encephalomyelitis. But anyhow, it's like a swelling of either the brain or the spinal cord, and basically it left a spinal cord injury and paralysis in my legs mostly. Although I do have paralysis from here down still. Most of it that bothers me is in my legs and feet. As I've gotten older, it's harder to walk. But when I left the hospital, I was in the hospital for 50 days, 7 weeks in a day, and I just wanted to get out of there. I mean, the neurologist wanted me to stay there until I could walk, and I said, no, I can't. I was going down to physical therapy like once a day in the hospital. At home, I was able to work on it whenever I had the energy. So after 50 days, I pretty much checked myself out. But no one told me about this medication. I was taking 21 different pills at the time, and there were at least half a dozen of those were to counteract the effects of other drugs. So here I was taking all this stuff. I had to sit down when I first got home and develop a schedule. So cause some of them you took once a day, some 4 times a day, 3 times a day. And it was pain pills, it was muscle relaxants. I can't even tell you what all it was.
And then the side effects, all that
stuff. Yeah, the side
too.
effects was, and I blew up. I still have stretch marks on my arms where I just swelled up. And I was like 250 pounds before I went in there, and I came out, I was just over 300 pounds when they weighed me. And it was all water weight from all this stuff they were giving me. And of course, they couldn't tell me about this, and I had no idea that marijuana would help me with my condition until 12 years later. I was in for my 6-month doctor's visit with my neurologist, and I was sitting there reading an article in the JAMA, or reading the index, and I came across this article about marijuana for medical uses and how it would help people. And I had heard about it, but I just kind of thought it probably wasn't real because
you never tried it before?
No, we were brain. I mean, I smoked pot when I was in college for a while, and I enjoyed it, but it was illegal, and I didn't want to get caught and end up with a record and stuff like that. So I enjoyed it, but I just didn't use it, and I had no idea it would help with this condition until I read that. And it took me 2 months before I finally got a hold of a friend that I knew in college, and he bought a 1/4 ounce with him. And I had my first peaceful night's sleep in years after smoking just about half a joint. And of course, I wasn't used to smoking it, so I was just like knocked out after it. And but anyhow, I learned slowly by playing around with it a little bit at a time to learn how much I need and how much I didn't want to overdo it, because I'm not a drinker either. I'm not really into the whole party thing, I guess, a lot. And but anyhow, this drug helped me a lot. And the interesting thing was, 6 months later, I went to my next appointment with him, and I sat down and I reached for the next journal. I was going to find something else new, Lo and behold, it's the same. It's the same one. So I put it down and walk over to the where he's got the magazine racks. I found 3 more copies of that in there. That man planted that in there. Well, when I got in there and I talked with him and I told him about what I discovered and how it was helping me in all of these different ways, he just sat there and said, And I always took a list of questions with me when I went in there because, I was always afraid I'd forget something, and it'd be 6 months before I could get back in there. And so I went down through that, and he said, after I got through with it, he said, Don, a lot of my patients tell me this. What's your next question? He couldn't recommend it, but
when I first became an activist, I remember I got an email from a guy that said that as a child he grew up in New York City, and he had asthma, and his dad took him to an old Finnish doctor. And he said he put some leaves in a plate and got them burning, and then put a cloth over his head and had him inhale the smoke. And he said he remembers the instantaneous relief that he got from inhaling that smoke from pot leaves. And he said And I smelled that smell again many, many years later, walking down the hall of my upstairs, walking down the hall upstairs when I walked by my son's bedroom.
Oh, that's funny.
And so, yeah, it's amazing as a medicine, you know. And I started an activist to legalize it, just so people could use it, you know. And then, as an activist, then I became aware of the industrial, and then of course the medical, and then the medical became law, and I worked on implementing the law, getting the law passed, and been in it ever since. So it's always amazed me. And when people talk about medical, and people that are anti or don't believe in it will say, well, that's just anecdotal evidence when a patient talks about how it's, like Don, for instance, talking about how it helps him. Well, that's just anecdotal evidence. Well, to me, anecdotal evidence is a kind of a polite way of saying that's probably all in your head.
Yeah.
And I say, of all the patients I've met, I'd dare you to tell them that it's all in their head. Stand back.
Well, I can kind of see that because, you know, our government has been so cruel in denying this for, you know, basically poor people were the ones that had access to this stuff. And forcing us to buy all those chemicals. I was a psychological zombie for years. I functioned, but I hated it. And I would get off work usually, and the first thing I'd do is take my clothes off, take a shower, and go to bed and lay down because my energy was totally gone. Once I started using this medication, what a difference it made.
Yeah, well, that's incredible. So your condition is reached a level where it's not going to get any worse? You just got to live with it, or is it progressive, or what?
Basically what it was like multiple sclerosis, but it was like a massive one-time attack. They don't understand what causes this, but it's your own immune system that's attacking the myelin sheath. But now I've got what they call a TMA, transverse myelitis, or I'm part of the TMA association, which helps us understand what we need to do and how to keep going, because a lot of folks don't have a long life if they have.
Have you had any experience with the CBD, high CBDs?
No, I'm new at this stuff, and I'm trying to learn a little bit at a time about what helps and what doesn't. But that's where I'm headed, probably. It's really interesting because they're finding the CBD has really incredible medicinal thing. But other patients, no, they want the THC too, you know. So, and I've seen tests, research that has shown that yes, you need the whole plant. You know, you can't. Yes.
But
somehow the THC helps the CD.
See
better. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, I don't either, but it's amazing. And wanted. Did you cover that, or did you?
Yeah, I think I did. I mean,
that's interesting.
Since 1990,
mouth, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm the horse. I'm the old horse, the old gray mare.
Right. Yeah.
I like being an old gray mare.
Oh yeah. I do too. It's just except for as far as the age thing, it's just
the pain, aches and pains.
But, it's about that movie, like a grumpy old man, you know.
Oh yeah.
And I always think about that. Well, when you get old, you are grumpy because you don't, you hurt more, and
you got to reach for something. What is that?
Yeah. I was talking to a friend of mine that I used to drive truck with at a 4th of July party, and we were talking about getting old, and he said, "Yeah, man," he said, "I just bumped something and I start bleeding." I said, the same way. I do it all the time. I work in something and I start bleeding all of a sudden because I just.
What is that?
Part of I don't know, just getting old, I guess. So he said, get older, your skin gets thinner. So I don't know. But, I know my mom has a heck of a time staying warm. It's part of the aging. The circulation isn't that.
Yeah, my feet. I have a lot of trouble with my feet. I often sleep with socks on now.
I go to Mom's place, and I was 85. Holy cripes, Mom. Jeez. So, but, so Don is... like I said, helping with the Hempfest, and that's on the 17th now. That starts on July 17th. That's on a Friday, and the vendors will start citing the vendor, or not citing, but putting the vendors in their spots, assigning spots is I guess the word I'm looking for. Anyway, we'll start putting vendors in at 8 o'clock, and then the show starts at 11. And we've got Normal Bean as a music guy again, and he's got a heck of a music lineup going. And being a free event, we don't have the money to hire big acts, so you don't have any big acts, but they've got some great talent.
Homegrown music is the best.
Great talent, and And we have bands in standby, because if you don't pay bands, they don't have, the incentive,
they might not
come, because they're not losing and they don't make it. So we do have cancellations, and so Normal has always had some bands lined up that are willing to stand by and be ready to go in case somebody doesn't show.
Good. You don't want me singing.
So, no. But that's another thing we've never had as far as our event is for the music, the loudness, or the type of music. We've never had any complaint. And we follow the rules pretty close. We have to shut down at 10 o'clock, stop the music at 10 o'clock, and then we have to be out of the park at 11. When I say out, we have to be out of the park. It just means that our security can stay behind to watch our perimeter and watch our grounds. But the public has to be out by 11. And boy, used to be we have night security. People thought, oh great, I can volunteer for night security and then sleep in the park.
I don't know.
But no, night security needs to stay up because they're supposed to be watching. So we had a security guy one time that was going to keep them on their toes, and he told them, he says, look, I'm going to come sneaking back in here in the wee hours of the morning, and he says $5 for the first person that can catch me. So, oh man, those night crew, they're all pumped up, oh man, we're going to get him, I'm going to get that $5. Yeah, we're going to get that $5. And they were pumped up all night, and he never showed up. He just stayed home.
Well, I think Jeremy does a good job, though.
Yeah, he does. Jeremy does, and that's why I just kept him in his play and, doing that job again, because he did well last year. And so, it's going to be great. That's our Peacekeeper crew, and then, of course, the Ganja Girls. You haven't seen the Ganja Girls yet.
No, I haven't. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's going to be a treat. So, the Ganja Girls will be out with the donation jars, and so it really has a great ambience. And we've got some incredible vendors. We have Meg's Marijuana Dispensary is paying for Eugene weekly ad. Thanks so much, Meg's Marijuana. You guys are great, and looking forward to seeing you and appreciate the support. Of course, the greener side, we've got Stony Girl Gardens. It goes on and on. So anyway, that's the Hemp Festival. We'll talk about it some more next show. Hope you're here. We will be, so hope to see you then.